everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. A bit of an opportunity for us to discuss the Community Achievement Awards nomination process, what goes on, how that you can put your best foot forward in an application. And the reason that we're running this is because the Community Achievement Awards is all about celebrating those stories of everyday people doing their part for the benefit of the community. So because you're a community champion, if you're watching this, thank you firstly for being involved. And secondly, the amount of times that we've just seen so many amazing people who are nominated and, maybe feel a little uncomfortable to talk about themselves or to, to their own horn, if you will, which is completely understandable. And so what we want to do is just really put everyone at ease and let people know that this is not about, showcasing how amazing you are, you're better than everyone else. It's actually about sharing the message and your story because A, it could inspire others, and B, we want to share your story. We want to celebrate you for the work you're doing, but we can't do that without your input. So that's why we're trying to help you put your best nomination you can so that we can share your story even better. So without further ado, we will get into it about how to make your nomination stand out. So these are some of the topics we'll be covering in the webinar. Firstly, why it's worth taking the time to submit. We're all busy. We've all got a lot of things going on. And sometimes you load up that nomination form and you think, this is just too much. I can't, put the time aside to complete this right now. So I'm going to tell you why it's worth doing that. We're going to go over some practical tips from the awards team. So that's our staff here at Awards Australia. We run the Community Achievement Awards. We've been doing so since 2002. And so a lot of us are very experienced and we know some tips and tricks that will help you out. So we'll share some of those. We have surveyed the judges to ask them what they're looking for. Because at the end of the day, I can give you the tips, but it's the judges who are the ones who are going to review and score your nominations. And obviously, the further your nomination progresses through the judging process, the more we're able to share your story and kind of celebrate your achievements. So I think that's a really important one, is because if your nomination stands out to the judges, it's going to have a better chance to progress. And at the end, we'll just finish off with any questions that you might have. So moving on, why it's worth taking your time to submit. So as I said before, we're all busy and, you do have to dedicate a bit of time for a nomination. And it's tempting, these days to say, oh, I'll just let AI do it all for me. And, probably not talking enough about AI in this, but I will share a little bit now. You certainly can use AI to help you, but I will guarantee you that the judges will be aware if you let AI write it all for you, and it will not progress through the judging process. So use AI to maybe summarize. If you've written too much and it's above the word limit, then you might use AI to help you reduce. Or if you've got information you've submitted for another application, you might use AI to help you how to adjust it for this, but don't use it to write out your questions because, as I said, it's very obvious the way AI writes and the judges will pick it up immediately. So use it to tweak or to shorten or to give you an idea of something, but don't use it to write the content. That's my suggestion. Got a bit sidetracked there, apologies. But firstly, why it's worth taking the time to submit. I kind of covered it already. It's so we can share your story. The Community Achievement Awards are, in their essence, just a vehicle for sharing positive and inspirational stories. But we need you to submit the nomination so that we can do our part. And some of the ways that we celebrate you guys is through social media. So once you hit that submit button, you'll be invited to give your permission for us to share your nomination on our social media pages. And it's a really nice way that we can kind of congratulate you for your nomination. That way, it doesn't even matter, to be honest, if you do progress through the judging stages or not. It gives us a chance to acknowledge your work and congratulate you on your nomination. We also send a media release to your local newspaper. And that is a really nice way, again, for local stories to get promoted, positive stories as well. So there's just a couple of the ways that we share your story. And obviously, as I mentioned, if you progress through the judging, there's more and more. Secondly, one that we get told a lot, which is really nice and kind of an unexpected bonus of submitting a nomination, is it's a reflection opportunity. It's a chance for you to look back at the journey that you've been on so far and some of those wins that you've had and even the challenges. how you're overcoming or how you have overcome them. And I think you'll find that just taking that opportunity to reflect back is actually really nice. And we're at a good time of the year now. We're over halfway through the year, where that reflection moment can really, spur you on to finish the year strong, or to, give you motivation to kind of keep going sometimes. So, yeah, that's a really interesting one that, when I first started doing these awards, I had no idea that that was a bonus of submitting a nomination, but so many people have shared that with us. So that's another reason it's really good to take this opportunity. Speaking of opportunities, networking and growth opportunities is a great reason to take part and submit the awards nomination, because by being part of this, you become part of a community as well. And the most obvious one is at the awards gala dinner, being in a room full of amazing community people, leaders, business leaders are there as well, government reps, and that is an amazing opportunity to network with people, to build out your contacts. And that can be important when you're talking about applying for grants, or speaking opportunities, or whatever it is that you're doing. There will be something there for you. And further to that, connecting with the other finalists, whether it's on social media, whether it's through us. I think a lot of people don't realize our team is here to help you, our award participants, and we can connect you with people as well. And some of those growth opportunities are especially through the Career College, one of our awards partners. They provide mindset training and coaching opportunities as well. And so even just by nominating, you will actually get access to one of those. And lastly, you've got to be in it to win it. If you don't submit that nomination, you have no chance of becoming a finalist or a winner. And the amount of people who, when they're up there on the stage at the awards night, accepting their award win, and they start their speech with, "Wow, I was not expecting this." It's very common. And so even if you think you've got no chance, you could be surprised, because your story could resonate with someone in a way that you might not be aware of. So we'll go over some practical tips from our awards team. So the first one, it's not overly exciting, but I think it's really important, and people don't realize this. In the nomination form, where it has your name, whether you're an individual, it'll ask you for your first name and your last name, or whether you're an organization, just ensure that your name is listed in the correct way and how you want to be referred to, because we use that moving throughout the awards process. So we use it for social media, we use it for your certificate, on the awards night when we introduce you. So, Andrew, I'll just pick on you quickly because we were chatting earlier. There's no need to respond, but Andrew, if your name is listed as Andy H in the nomination form, then that's how we're going to refer to you. And that might be fine. That might be how you prefer to be listed. But if you prefer your whole name to be listed, and for example, sometimes we have, whether it's a doctor or someone with an official title, I recommend putting that in there as well, because that's how we refer to you moving forward. It carries through to your certificate you get for being a nominee or a finalist, and so on and so forth. And for an organization, it's important too, because sometimes you might have a bigger organization that's nominated, but they're nominating one small team or one particular project. So just think about what it is that's being referred to, and ensure that's kind of accurately written. The second one, this is mainly in response to just such a common question we get from so many people, is not sure how to write my answers when I'm filling out a nomination form and I'm answering question 1, question 2, and especially if you've been nominated by someone else and they have written a little testimonial about you in the third person. Then people are like, "Oh, do I write my input in the first person?" So the most simple way to address that question is just to write the way that you feel comfortable. If you feel comfortable writing in the third person because it's a little bit embarrassing to write out yourself, that's okay. If you prefer to write in the first person, that's okay as well. You can use stop points if you need to. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. It's more just whatever you're comfortable with. Because if you're writing in a way that's not usual, so for example, if you're pretty, I suppose, not a formal person, you don't write in a really formal way, then don't try and write formally in your application, because it will not feel, authentic. And so inject your personality is my last part of that tip. Feel free to just write how you normally write. If you like to make a joke, pop that in there. If you like to use alliteration, whatever it is, just do something that you're comfortable with, because it'll be way easier for you. and it may even stand out to the judges a bit more. You think about if they're reading through a whole bunch of applications one after the other, if you're kind of writing in a way that stands out to them, then you might get noticed a little bit more. The next practical tip is about the fact that you can enter up to 2 categories. So it's a maximum of 2 categories because the awards are about celebrating as many people as we can. So we don't want one person to be in all 8 categories of the awards, but you can enter 2. And the reason we have that is because sometimes you might fit into 2 categories, and we don't want you choosing one over the other, and then you miss out. So we have it that you can enter 2 categories, and some people don't realize that. And occasionally in the judging process, we will hear from our judges saying, that was such a great nomination, but it really wasn't that suited to this category. So if you get an email from us saying, we maybe suggest this category, it's probably because, we can kind of see that you're a better fit for that category. And you might like to enter into 2 as well. Comes back to that point previously about you've got to be in it to win it. Another one that I like to suggest to people, and this actually played out nicely earlier when we had Dan and Andrew kind of, talking, they're in the same category and comparing. It's not actually, not really about competing. It's about, let's celebrate as many community people as we can. And so another tip is that, and this one especially is for people who are feeling a little bit reluctant, I suppose, to, to, I guess, write about themselves and to feel, I don't want to be putting myself out there. Again, I'd like to encourage people to remember that this is to share your story and to, inspire others as well, as much as it is about acknowledging your own achievements. So if you're feeling a bit that way, you can pay it forward and nominate someone else as well. And that way you've got someone to cheer for and you can kind of go through the process together. So that's one thing that some people have asked us about is, I've been nominated, can I nominate someone else as well? And yes, you can. And sometimes people really enjoy going through that process together. All right, let's get to some of the things that we've heard from our judges. So as I said, we've surveyed the judges, we've collated their responses, and these are the things that have come back the most, that have stood out to us, and that have, we're seeing multiple judges say this. So I've collated them here for you. So the first one, in the nomination form, if you've already looked at it, you'll see that there's the nomination details where you put in your own details. There's also a spot for up to 2 referees to be listed. So the judges have told us that they really value seeing a referee added there. So we'd encourage you to provide at least 1 referee. Now, the reason is that is showing you've got someone else there who is vouching for your work, who is there to back up and support your nomination. And the judges can contact that referee as well, if they have any questions or if something seems a bit, they wanted to verify some of the information in there. So it's a good idea to have at least 1 referee. And I guess to think about who that referee could be. So, to use a really broad example, if you're part of a Rotary group and, you're doing volunteer work or you've started a new project within your Rotary and you're not the president, ask the president to be your referee, because you've now got someone who's, in a role, who knows about what's going on in their community. They would know and back up that, yes, you did start that program and you're doing a great job with it. That's one example. Another one, if you're part of an organization, have your manager or something like that as your referee. And to take this tip from a really good tip from the judges to an amazing, outstanding tip from the judges, ask that referee for a short testimonial, a reference, a letter of support. A paragraph or 2 is all they need, and we can attach that and you can upload that as an attachment to your nomination. And that's going to really take it to the next level and showcase to the judges that not only have you got a referee willing to back you up, they actually have done it in a written way. And I guess that segues into the next point, which is using the attachments as evidence. So it can be tempting to, skip over those questions, those written questions, and just upload attachments and submit, done. But the judges are looking at your answers to the nomination questions first and foremost. That's what they're really reviewing in your nomination. And then any attachments that you upload are really there to support what you've written. So that's why we use them as evidence. And it's, we see a lot that people will upload, say, 10 photos of themselves to go along with the nomination. And whilst that's good, it shows, the judges, oh yeah, this person is is a real person or whatever. What we want to use those photos for is actually to support the question, the answers you put in the question. So if you wrote that as part of your nomination, I spoke at a community event and delivered a presentation to 100 people. So what we're going to use the photo for is a photo of you on stage, a photo with you interacting with the audience. Now that is evidence of the presentation that you gave. If you were featured in the local media and because of your community initiative that you started, then you want to have a PDF of the story as an attachment. So these are the kind of things we're using. Use them as evidence, as backup to support the written documents. If you're a business, for example, you want to upload one of your annual reports or your charity annual report, those kind of things. So I hope that makes sense. Obviously, I'm using very generic examples here, but hopefully something will make sense according to your nomination from what I've just said. The next tip from the judges is to refer to the category description. And again, previously, I just encouraged you to enter into 2 categories. So it's important to, kind of tailor your nomination to the category you're in. So that is going to really help you to stand out and fit that category. And just like, applying for a job when there's key selection criteria, what you want to do is address the things that the award category is talking about. So if we're talking about the community, you want to really refer back and kind of make sure using the keywords from the category description so that you're really nailing that award category, and the judges will say, okay, they're a great fit for this category. So that can be an easy one, especially if you're a bit unsure on how to ask a particular question. Refer back to the category description, reread the question and answer the question, use words from the question when you're in your response. So the next one, showcase your purpose and impact. This is a bit of an amalgamation of a few different bits of feedback we got to try and generalize it for you, because it was really getting to the heart of the same message that judges were saying. And that is that the judges don't know why you started or what your purpose is of your initiative and your work if you don't tell them. So we don't want to assume that they know or that it's obvious. So if you've started your own company, you started your own community group, you are on a journey of being an advocate, you've gone down and studied something and then you're working in that field, let the judges know why you did that, what your purpose is, what drives you, because again, that's going to show your personality and inject your motivations, and it's going to bring the journey along on your story. Sorry, the judges along on your story and journey. And then after we're talking about, your purpose, you want to kind of hammer it home. We're talking about your impact. So it's all well and good to say, this is why I started it and what I'm doing. But now you need to let the judges know what's the impact of those actions. What have you achieved? What are the outcomes? Who's benefiting from that? So I hope that makes sense when I say here, showcase your purpose and impact. Almost like a 3-piece strategy. Why you're doing it, what you're doing, and then what the outcomes have been. The last one is to be specific where you can. And this one has come about because sometimes people will use abbreviations and the judges don't know what that means, or they kind of skip over the details. So it's about, imagining, almost putting yourself in the shoes of the judges and remembering that they may not know about you or your work. And so to be specific, to explain it and don't assume that they're experts in your particular field. So our judges are amazing experts in their fields, and they're community and corporate leaders, and they're highly intelligent people. But we've got to almost treat them like they don't know anything about you, and you've got to be specific. Give them the details. Don't use abbreviations or really specific technical jargon to explain really carefully, so that you can kind of take them on that journey, kind of as I said before. So there's some of the main tips that I want to go over, and I do want to give everyone a chance to ask any questions if they'd like. You can do that in the chat. You can feel free to take yourself off mute and ask away. Go ahead. Now's a great time for that. And while people are thinking of any questions, just a reminder that nominations are closing on the 26th of August. So we've got a few weeks left, but now is a great time. to get stuck in and submit for a few reasons. The earlier you submit, if you do want to give us permission to share your nomination, to celebrate your nomination on our social media channels, the earlier you get in, the more likely you are to be featured. If you wait to the very last day, that's when the majority of people are submitting, and we won't get a chance to feature everyone at that time. So the earlier the better. It also gives the local newspapers a chance to run a story on you. And it gives our team a chance to look over your nomination and provide any feedback as well. Did anyone have a question? There were a few people who joined a little late, so you might have missed something. Feel free to ask away. And if not, that's okay too. The other thing you can do is you can email us caa@awardsaustralia.com. I'll pop this in the chat for you with any questions you may have, and we can answer those accordingly. So I've just put that in the chat, caa@awardsaustralia.com. Get in touch. Our team would love to give you assistance, and sometimes those questions are very specific, and you don't want to share them in front of everyone, which is fair enough.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sorry, I just joined a bit later. With the referees, so I have actually got nominated by my members. So they three of them put the nomination in. So is that enough, or do I need to add someone else?
3 is perfect. Yeah, so it's not one of those things where it's like judges looking and saying, oh, 10 referees, that's worth 10 points. It's more, 1 or 2 is probably enough to focus on. And that's just going to show the judges, that there is that kind of person there who's backing up what is in your nomination. So that sounds great what you've done, Maggie.
Okay, and because they did fill in already part of the question, so can I just leave it and then add the rest of my story to that question?
Yeah, I'll definitely recommend adding to the question so that you've had a chance to have some input as well. And the little text box there in the form, you can change the color, for example, to showcase that you're writing your own response. And again, people use the attachment section for that sometimes as well. So we've definitely seen where a nominator or referee has filled out something in a text box, and then the nominee thinks, oh, maybe I don't have to answer that. I do suggest you provide at least some answer there. Again, give the judges a chance to hear from you. Okay.
And is that okay to upload some videos? Because I know there is not an option, like attachment just can be pictures. The videos, is there like a link or something? Because I do have like a couple. Yeah.
It's a really good question, and I should have covered that when I was talking about attachments. Yeah, we can't have videos just purely because it overloads the server. If everyone's attaching videos, the file size is just too high. So the way to get around that is to share it as a link. So whether that's a Dropbox or Google Drive folder or something, and you have the video in there, and you just either upload it to a Word document, and that clearly states these videos support my nomination, or you can actually include the link in the question box itself. Again, just explaining to the judges why it's relevant to encourage them to watch it. And then, with your Google Drive link or your Dropbox, just ensure the shared settings are kind of correct, that people can actually watch it, if that makes sense. I know some people have set it as like private and you have to register and then they can't watch it. So
yeah. So just make sure it's open. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, that's great. I think that's it. Awesome. If I have any more questions, I'll just email.
Yeah, thanks, Maggie. Those are really good questions.
Thanks.
All right, everyone, we'll leave it there. We'll let you get on with your day. Happy nominating. If you have any questions,
Thank you.
Then email us through caa@awardsaustralia.com. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.
Catch you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.